So you're no longer in the lower ranks and you've reached the middle ranks in Rocket League, and you're at the point to where your plays need to be a bit more strategic and meaningful. Well, in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys some mechanics as well as sharing some advice that you can practice and implement into your game that'll take you out of the middle ranks and into high champ and even into grand champ. What's going on, y'all, and welcome to the how-to mechanics video for diamonds to low champ players. I'm going to be kind of combining diamond and low champ, seeing as the mechanics that you guys are going to need to be practicing will be fairly similar and pretty much the same mechanics that you'll be using all the way up until grand champ. The only difference is you'll be perfecting them at different levels. So therefore, these mechanics and things I'm going to be mentioning in this video will be useful not just at diamond, but when you also get up into champ as well. So this might be the last how-to mechanics video I make regarding the Road to GC series that's on the channel. As I said, I'm making a how-to mechanics video that's preceding each rank. But seeing as the mechanics from diamond to champ, the things you need to practice will be fundamentally the same. I'm going to be kind of combining the two, seeing as there's not going to be much other mechanics to practice once you reach champ. Now, of course, when you get up into high champ, I'll probably mention a couple of advanced mechanics that we're going to be using up there. But as of right now, we're just focusing on the fundamental mechanics that you guys can practice that'll take you all the way up to possibly grand champ anyway. So you won't even really be needing the advanced mechanics, but they do help. So if you are a player that does have advanced mechanics and things like that, I'll be going over those in the series and when you can use them and make the best out of your mechanics, and overall to show you how to maximize your offensive and defensive opportunities here as well. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump on into free play so we can get on with the first mechanic. All right, so we're now in free play, and the first mechanic I do want to go over is ground dribbling. Now, ground dribbling is very important as it is one of the main ways to keep possession in this game. So when you hear about people keeping possession, most of the time it's due to catching the ball and going for ground dribbles. So we're also going to be talking about catches and things like that when going over ground dribbling as well. So ground dribbling, I'm pretty sure most of you by now know what ground dribbling is, but essentially is when you're keeping the ball on top of your car like this, right? So you're pretty much just keeping the ball on top of your car. This allows you to transition into doing a whole lot of different things, right? So you can go for a flick, you can go for a ground to air dribble, you can go for a musty, you can drop it off and go for a fake, you can drop it off and go for a bump. There's just so many options when you have the ball on top of your car to where it's pretty much dangerous for the opponent to challenge you because they have no idea what you can do next or what you'll do next. I mean, most of the time it will end up ground dribbling and transitioning into a flick, but of course you have multiple different options you can take. You do not always have to flick when you go for a ground dribble. So ground dribbling is going to be one of the most important things that you guys can start practicing. And luckily, let me just turn this off real quick. Luckily, in free play, they have a couple of commands at the top right, as I've been speaking about in past how to mechanics videos. They have some controls up there on the right that you guys can use to go ahead and practice your ground dribbles. Now, there also are training packs, but there's really no need for them anymore when they added these commands like take possession. There's also start dribble. Some of you guys might have start dribble. I personally have it unbinded, but if you don't have it like I do, you can come down here, scroll to the bottom where it shows you all of the controls for the free play, and you should see start dribble. As you can see, mine is unbinded. So if you look at the top right and you don't see start dribble, you can just set a keybind for it and you could practice start dribbling. It'll just spawn the ball on top of your car. However, you don't exactly need start dribble because take possession can put the ball on top of your car as well. If you jump and press take possession, you'll see the ball spawned on top of your car. Now, I also recommend doing this because it can kind of help you get used to kind of catching the ball as well. Instead of just spawning it on top of your car, you can get used to kind of catching and controlling the ball as well. So practicing ground dribbles is actually fairly simple, especially with the controls that Rocket League already gives to you to practice them. So it shouldn't be too difficult to explain to you guys how to practice them because, as I said, you can use the take possession and the start dribble to help you guys get started on learning how to keep the ball on top of your car. So now, the primary thing you want to pay attention to here is this white circle on the ground. You want to make sure your car is staying relatively inside of that white circle. And when you're turning here, right, the ball, you want the ball to kind of roll off the side, right, and you want to kind of pick it back up, right? So you want to kind of let it roll over to the side, and as it's rolling, you turn with it, right? You want to drop the ball off to the side of whatever side you want to turn to, right? So if I want to turn to the left, I'll drop the ball off to the left a little bit, then turn left. If I want to turn to the right, I'll drop it off to the right a little bit, then turn right. you kind of just want to make the ball go in the direction you want to go. Therefore, you have an easier time keeping the ball on top of your car. You want to go straight and just try to keep the ball on top of your car. Try to stay in the center of that white circle if you can. And most of the time, as you can see, you'll just go straight. Right? You can practice this with boost, by using your boost, feathering your boost every now and then, and having, or just regularly driving. It doesn't matter, but you should get used to doing both, seeing as this will help you quite a bit with your ground control and overall just understanding how to just be able to dribble the ball in multiple different scenarios. There will be scenarios where you need to boost. There will be scenarios where you don't exactly need to boost. So, you know, it's good to just practice multiple different types of scenarios. It is a lot easier to dribble with your ball cam off, just in case you didn't know, but most players do know that by now, that you want to be ground dribbling with your ball cam off as opposed to with it on. You can do it with it on, but it's a lot more weird to do, and your camera angle will start to shift a bit, as you can see. Hold on a second here. When the ball goes too far behind you, you'll see it does that swivel, right? You don't want that swivel right there. You want to just just keep the ball lined up so you can see what's going on in front of you. You don't exactly want that swivel to be messing you up while you're trying to do your ground dribble, which is why a lot of players ground dribble with their ball cams off, so they can see what's going on in front of them, so they can get ready to do the next thing that they need to do. So with that being said, that's pretty much just about everything you guys need to know as far as ground dribbling and how to practice it. Like I said, it's very easy to practice with the commands that Rocket League gives you in free play already, so it shouldn't be too difficult for you to practice, but I do recommend practicing it and getting really consistent with it. So nothing much more to cover regarding that, besides the fact that I should mention here that you should get used to also learning how to pick the ball up off the ground by doing what I mentioned in silver, which is going around the ball and popping it up, right? Because you try to go and pop the ball while it's rolling away from you, you'll just add momentum and towards the ball in the forward direction, and you won't be able to pop it up. So what you need to do in order to pop it up is you need to cut the ball's momentum off and make it pop into the air like that, right? You don't want to add momentum in the direction the ball is already driving in. You want to try to cut the ball off and pop it up like this, right? You'll have an extremely hard time popping the ball off the ground by just trying to add momentum in the direction that the ball is already rolling in. Which is why you need to cut the ball off and add counter force in the opposite direction to pop it up off the ground. And as you can see, you pick it up, you can start our dribble. But that's pretty much going to cover everything that I need to cover in regards to ground dribbling. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the next mechanic. So the next mechanic I'm going to go over is flicks. Now, there is a variety of different ways that you can flick. Tons of different ways, right? You have front flip flicks, side flip flicks, 45-degree flicks, 90-degree flicks, 180-degree flicks, musty flicks, breezy flicks. There's just so many different types of flicks that you can do in this game. But the primary flicks that we're going to be focusing on here are just the normal front flip flick, the side flip flick, and possibly the 45-degree flick or 90-degree flick. However you guys want to mention that type of flick. But pretty much, I personally only really use the 45-degree flick. I do use the side flip flick occasionally, but the 45-degree flick looks something like this, right? So even though that wasn't on target, but what the 45-degree flick allows you to do is it allows you to flick while driving forwards as well, and it allows you to generate a lot of power. As you can see, a lot of power on the ball. And you're also able to place the ball top right or top left corner with this flick. As you can see, I almost put that exactly top right. So the 45-degree flick is a really, really versatile flick, and I recommend learning how to do the 45-degree flick, which is pretty much when you're dribbling the ball, like we were speaking about before, you want to jump and turn your car to the side, right? So I kind of turned it more on a 90-degree there, but I said the 90-degree flick or 45-degree flick, however much you want to turn is fine, but you shouldn't turn that much more than 90 degrees when you want to do this flick. But you want to turn your car just slightly like this, and then when you turn like that, all you do is backflip. Like it's very simple, right? So you just turn like this, and then you just backflip or side flip, depending on how your car looks, right? So you can side flip or you can backflip, either way it goes. So here you can jump, and there I side flipped. You can see we'll do it again, jump, and there we side flipped again, right? But you can also do it while backflipping as well, but that's mostly if you're doing a 90-degree flick and you turn more, you can backflip, and as you see, you get that kind of a motion there, where it also goes up into the air, I personally use the 45-degree flick a lot more than any other flick in the game, and during the series, the 45-degree flick is going to be the flick that I'm going to be using the most. I think that's practically the only way that I really do flick. But the side flip flick and the front flip flick are also pretty good as well, and they're more fundamental flicks that you can start practicing down in Diamond. So the front flip flick pretty much looks like this. Alright, it's a simple flick, simple front flip flick, just like that. Nothing too complex. You just drive with the ball here, you just front flip, just like this, and then you get this front flip flick here. Doesn't really generate that much power all the time. I mean, you can get it to generate some power, but most of the time here, it's just a basic flick to flick the ball up and over the opponent that's in front of you. And most of the time it works on opponents who have a hard time just defending flicks in general. So it is a very, very fundamental flick. And the thing about the front flip flick is it is useful when you're driving in a forwards direction towards the net. So I mean, if you're just driving in a forward direction, you can do the front flip flick and pop it over whatever opponent is defending, or just to get a quicker shot on net instead of just rolling it into the net. So front flip flick is probably one of the most basic flicks that you could practice overall. Just catching the ball and just front flipping. Nothing too complicated here. Really, it's a front flip. And it puts the ball, you can put it top shelf most of the times, which is a lot harder for most opponents who are down in Diamond to save. But the side flip flick is a whole lot more useful, in my opinion, than the front flip flick. And that's usually you want to approach the net going on an angle, kind of like this, and then side flip. And as you can see, you can also put the ball top shelf as well. It's a whole lot harder to save than the front flip flick, because it's a lot more harder to predict where it's going to be placed. The side flip flick can be used quite a bit more, and in quite a bit more situations than the front flip flick will be. But that's pretty much, as I said before, when ground dribbling, you want to kind of drop the ball to the side a bit, and then as you're dropping the ball over to the side, you want to side flip, right? You want to get the ball to be going towards the net on an angle, kind of like this, and then you kind of side flip, kind of like you want to side flip when you feel like the ball is about to fall off of your car. That's the best way that I can explain it. Is you want to start turning, and once you feel like the ball is about to fall off, that's when you side flip. Right? It's kind of like, think about it as a way to try to keep the ball up, like a last-ditch effort. And if you kind of feel it like that, it'll be a lot easier to get this side flip flick down. You can do it softer, you can do it harder, and it really just comes down to practice. Of course, everything that we do in this game practically comes down to just practice, and just diving for the ball, side flipping. Nothing too complex as well. Another basic flick that should be fairly easy to learn, as opposed to the 45-degree or 90 flick, which probably takes a little bit more time to learn, depending on how much car control you already have with your car already. It might come naturally to some people, or a lot easier to some other people as opposed to others. But like I said, it really just comes down to you and what you're used to doing already. So that's just about going to cover everything about flicks. But flicks are very useful in 1v1 or even 1v2 situations where you have to flick the ball up and over opponents. Flicks are very, very, very useful. So that is definitely going to be a fundamental mechanic for you to learn, and we're going to be using it a lot down in Diamond, and even in Champ. I even still use them in Grand Champ. Now the higher and higher up in rank you go, the players give you less and less time to flick, but you have more than enough time to dribble and flick at the Diamond and Champ ranks. They're not exactly that fast to the point to where you guys just don't have time to control the ball and you have to make a play extremely quick. So utilizing ground dribbles and flicks will help you a lot when ranking up out of Diamond and out of Champ. And the more consistent you can get with your ball control on the ground, the easier time you will have scoring on opponents who are down in the lower end of Champ and in Diamond. So that is going to conclude everything that I need to mention in regards to flicks. And we're going to go ahead and move on to the next mechanic here. Now the next mechanic I'm about to mention might seem pretty obvious, right? And everyone who's watching this might think that they already have this mastered, but when I tell you can never get too good at this, I mean it. And this mechanic is shooting. You want to get your shooting accuracy, shooting power, shooting consistency. You want to get all of that down as good as you possibly can get. Learning how to generate power on the ball towards the net and learning how to put the ball on target almost every single time you shoot it is a really, really useful skill to have, right? Like, not even every player who plays this game can put the ball on net every single time, hence why everybody at every rank has missed an open net or misses open nets. But it is very, very important that you practice on your shooting and you get used to shooting the ball on net a lot more consistently and a lot harder, right? The harder you can shoot the ball on net and the more consistently you can put the ball on net, the harder time your opponents will have making a good save. And of course, as we spoke about before with keeping possession, you want to get as close to the net as you possibly can before taking a really good shot, because that gives the opponents a lot less time to react to the shot that you are taking, right? Now there's a couple of ways that you can practice this. There's a bunch of training packs. I personally use ground shots, and this ground shot training pack had carried me when I was champ 2, out of champ 2 and up to grand champ, simply because my shooting was poor. I couldn't generate good power, and at the time my shooting was one of the worst aspects of my game, and honestly, in my opinion, to this day, it still is one of the worst aspects of my game. If I could shoot the ball on net mostly every single time I try to, I feel like I'd be ranking up a whole lot more. But that goes to show you that no matter what rank you are, you can always get better at shooting. But the training pack map code will be at the top of the screen, as well as some clips that you guys can see from the training pack that I have hit here to show you guys how it helps me. You should probably aim to try to get the ball in the net as quickly as you possibly can. Try to set goals, maybe shots over 80 kph, 90 kph, even 100 kph. If you can hit shots on the net over 100 kph every single time, and you know that most of the time on most of these shots that you shoot, that most of the time they will be either extremely hard to save or just unsavable altogether. Especially at the lower ranks of Diamond and Champ, if you can shoot the ball on net at 100 kph every single time, or close to 100 kph every single time, then most of the time that will result in you getting a goal. So as I set goals for yourself and try to achieve those goals. Try to score every shot as fast as you possibly can. Of course, you can start low. If you're a lower rank watching this, maybe you're like plat or gold, maybe even silver, you can set a lower goal for yourself, maybe getting the ball on net at maybe 60 or 50 kph. But overall, just try to set a goal for yourself to make sure you can put the ball on net majority of the time. Just getting it on net is good enough, but if you can get it on the net at a faster speed, that's even better, right? So you want to be primarily focusing on putting some time into your shooting. You can never be too good at the fundamentals, and you can never be too good at shooting. Now, the final mechanic that I do want to mention, it isn't really a mechanic, but more so of a game sense / advice kind of a thing here. I'm going to be mentioning fake challenges. Now, you've probably heard me mention in the series quite a few times that you just need to be in the general area. You don't have to dive for a ball that you know you're going to get beat to. You just need to be somewhere near the opponent in order to make them panic and toss possession. And that's exactly what a fake challenge achieves. That's pretty much exactly what that is. If you move up towards the opponent like you're going to challenge, and then you turn around, and what this ends up doing is when your opponents are going for dribbles or for flicks, which is something you don't want them to be doing, right? You don't want to put your teammate in a position to where they have to defend a flick, especially from close to the net. So first man's job here, and first man's job a lot of times in Rocket League, especially at the higher ranks, first man's job sometimes is to go and get flicked on, or to go and force for second man. So second man has an easier time on defense rather than having to save a controlled shot on net, right? You don't want to put your second man in a position to where they have to make a difficult save. You as first man should be doing what you can to force the opponents to toss possessions so that your second man can collect the ball for free, right? You do not want to put your teammate in a position to where they have to make saves, right? If you're solo queuing, you don't want to leave your solo queue teammate back on defense, right? So you want to do exactly what you can to make sure your teammate is having an easier time playing the game. That way you can cover for your teammates' weaknesses and play to their strengths. If you know that they have a hard time on defense, do what you can to ensure that your teammate isn't left in that position, right? And now I will speak about this because this kind of ties into that a bit. It just has to do with rotation. So a lot of players around this rank have heard that when rotating back, you should rotate back post. And a lot of players around these ranks will just default to back post, which is why during the series at Plat, I was surprised to see that some of the players were actually playing to cut off the first man on the opposite team to ensure that second man didn't have to defend against them, which is crazy because even up here in Diamond and in Champ, players usually complain when their teammate rotates ball side back, which in some cases second man shouldn't even be challenging until the first man gets behind them, right? Now, of course, first man should not always rotate ball side, but at the higher ranked, especially at GC2 and higher, you would almost always see your teammate rotate ball side, and this is because they're trying to depossess the first man so that the first man isn't taking a free shot on net or putting the second man in a position to where he has to save a good shot. As I said, you do not want your second man having to defend against a really good shot that puts him in a really bad spot, because even if he does make the save, sometimes the save won't be all that great and their second man on the opposite team can take another shot on net. So you want to do what you can to try to get in their first man's way, go for a demo, hit the ball off his car, do anything that you possibly can to make sure that he has a harder time scoring. Even if all you do is get him to go into the corner, that is perfectly fine. That puts your teammate in a way better spot than allowing the first man to go towards your net and take a really good shot, right? So fake challenging essentially is when you are first man and you go into challenge and you know you're going to get beat. What you don't want to do is you don't want to dive for a ball you know you're going to get beat to. It's just going to put you out of the play. What you want to do is you just drive up towards the opponent like you're going to challenge him, and then you turn around and head back to net. You get to stay in the play here. The opponent tosses possession. Your teammate can capitalize on the ball that he just tossed, and you can rotate behind your teammate, and now you guys can start a counterattack on the opponent. So you end up essentially flipping the script on the opponents, and you allow them to give you guys a free ball, and then you guys can start an attack, as opposed to them taking an attack on you and scoring a goal on you possibly, right? So this allows you to cut that off immediately and allow you guys a scoring opportunity that you guys can take on the opponents that otherwise wouldn't have happened if you dived in. If you dived in, you leave your teammate back in a 1v2, and that is not good for anyone, right? So do what you can to help your teammate out on defense, and this is when fake challenging, enforcing, and trying to depossess the first man all tie in together so that you guys can be a really good teammate to your second man. Alright, that is going to conclude this video. This has been the how to mechanics video for diamonds and low champ players. The stuff that I mentioned here in this video should help you guys or give you guys mechanics that you guys can practice in order to move up into high champ and even low grand champ. Of course, you guys will have to put in time into mastering these mechanics a whole lot more as you move up higher and higher into the ranks. And it also ties into your positioning and other things as well. But all that, the positioning and when to use these mechanics, will all be showcased in the Road to GC series that is going on here in the channel. We are in Diamond 1, and the new season is about to start, so we will continue the series after the new season starts, and we'll be continuing from Diamond 1 like we were before. So with that being said, if you guys feel like you learned anything or you enjoyed the video, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments down below if you feel like I left anything out or that I didn't explain anything all that well. If you guys can drop down in the comments and ask some questions, I'll do my best to reply as quickly as I can. And with that being said, that is going to conclude this video, and that is it from me. Peace.